Hi everyone, I'm Kevin, a photographer and videographer based in Texas that specializes in portraits and street and travel content and capturing the intensity of sports. And today I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the Sony A7IV. This tutorial will walk you through the unboxing, key accessories, settings, and of course how to use the camera in a real world scenario. By the end, you'll feel confident shooting with your Sony A7IV. So let's go over what comes in your Sony A7IV box. Of course, you're gonna have the Sony A7IV. This is a full frame mirrorless powerhouse of a camera that has a 33 megapixel resolution and incredible autofocus. You can shoot 4K all the way to 60, and it has a lot of cool features that I'm gonna show you today. If you purchase a kit lens combo, you're gonna have a 28-70 lens, which is excellent for everyday type of shooting. It comes with an NPFZ 100 battery and as well a charger so that you can keep yourself powered up, and as well a comfortable strap for easy carrying that you can use with your Sony A7IV, having a nice little symbol on it. And something that I think you'll definitely need before you can start even shooting is going to be an SD card. So make sure to get one of those to be able to capture all your memories and everything you want to create. And my recommendation would be to get a V90 if you want to experience fast readouts, but as well to be able to shoot in the highest modes with video. Well, that's everything in the box, so let's get into turning this on. To get your A7IV ready to shoot, first, you gotta insert the battery and the memory card. The A7IV has dual SD card slots, which I use for fast write speeds, especially when shooting 4K video. If you wanna make sure you have enough power when you're out creating, I advise purchasing a spare battery because then you'll be able to shoot for longer periods of time without the worries about if you're gonna have enough juice to power up your Sony A7IV. Then you just attach the lens of your choice by simply aligning it with the little white dot right there, compare it to your camera lens, and make sure that it's nice and combined. Boom, until you hear that click. Once that's set up, all you do is turn the on button on and the camera turns on. Since this will be the first time turning on your camera, you might get a message to set up the time and date for your time zone. So go ahead and do it now so that you can have everything set up for your location. What I also like to do is adjust the little viewfinder using the diopter dial to match the viewfinder to my eyesight, especially if you're gonna be shooting a lot more with the viewfinder than with the screen. Now that your camera's set up, here's some settings that will help you use your camera. One of the cool things about the Sony A7IV is having this little switch right here where you can go from photo to video to S and Q mode. So we're gonna go into the switch here and go into the photo mode. Next, we're gonna hit the menu button, go into the image quality, scroll over to the right and go into the image quality settings. Right here, I like to go ahead and set up for uncompressed RAW. This gives me the maximum editing flexibility because it gives me the most information on my image so I can do whatever I want to in post to edit into the style that I would like to have. Now, if we go back into our switch and go into the video mode, and we go back to the menu section, we can see the file format for our video. I recommend shooting in the XAVC HS4K because it gives you the most high quality footage without filling up your memory card fast. This allows you to shoot at a high resolution to be able to go into the movie settings and shoot into 4K 24 frames per second or 60 frames per second at 10-bit at a really great resolution. The Sony A7IV offers different types of frame rates to be able to capture different types of movements. We have 4K 24 frames per second to be able to have the everyday type of format, and as well have the slow-mo at 4K 60 with a crop, and as well have access to 1080p at 120 frames per second. Something amazing about this camera, it's its autofocus capabilities. The real-time eye autofocus is a game changer for different subject styles. We have human if you're wanting to shoot more into the portrait or street photography style, as well as animal and or bird mode for wildlife, depending on what kind of animal you're trying to shoot. And you're able to also use these for video. Something I recommend is using the focus mode in continuous autofocus mode. This will help ensure that you don't miss a shot by continuously focusing on your subjects. The great thing about this camera is that it has a lot of these C1, C2, C3 buttons to be able to customize the camera to your liking. You're able to access it by going into the menu, going down here to the briefcase and adding it to the dial customize and into the customized key dial setup for photo or video. You're able to customize it to your liking, so this will be more of a preference. You're able to access camera buttons to be able to assign them to whatever you might need. So go ahead and just tinker with what would work best for your needs when you're out shooting the type of photos that you're going to be shooting. So let's switch back to video mode. If you're going to be shooting video, I recommend shooting in a color profile. You can access this by going into the menu, go ahead into color/tone, and simply go ahead and pick a profile. I recommend using the PP8, which I set it up to become the S-Log3 with the S-Gamut 3 Cine for the color mode. This will allow you to have a flat profile, but it'll give you the most dynamic range for videos to color grade in post. It gives you access to be able to color grade in post to your style, so you're able to get more creative with your shots. As well, if you're going to be shooting video, you never want to have those wobbly shots. So go ahead and go back into this section in the menu, and we're going to go into the image stabilization and into the steady shot to become active, and as well keep it on auto. That way the camera will do its work as it keeps stabilizing the footage as best as possible with the in-body stabilization that the camera provides. And if you like to document your travels or take self-portraits, this camera has access to the Wi-Fi Bluetooth where you can connect the camera to your smartphone. You simply go into the little world section, connect remote shutter, smartphone connect, and go ahead and connect it with the menu settings that it tells you. You're able to use a Sony app on your smartphone to remote control your camera, and it'll also give you access to easy file transfers whenever you're wanting to send some images onto your phone. I have found that these settings have been the most effective when using my Sony A7IV, and now we're going to put it into some real life scenarios. One of my favorite uses of the Sony A7IV is to use it for portrait photography. So my way about going to shooting some portraits, I honestly use aperture priority to ensure that I have the shutter speed that I need, so that way I don't miss a shot. So let's get to take some portraits and show you how this magnificent camera works. I love using a customized aperture priority mode where I'm able to use a wide aperture like my f2 of this lens to get a beautiful background blur. This allows me to focus on composition because the autofocus of this camera is always spot on. Using the eye autofocus and portraits is just something so great with this camera. I'm able to also just focus on having the exposure compensation work for my benefit because I'm able to just keep it at a setting so the camera can do what it does best while I'm just capturing the photos and just making sure the frame of my shot looks great. Here are the examples using the Sony A7IV. Now that you've seen what this camera can do for photos, let's go get some video. Always gotta use a nice variable ND filter. I use the Moment 2 to 5 stop, really great. For cinematic video, here's how I set up my Sony A7IV. I go into the video mode and then I set my frame rate and resolution to 4K 24 frames per second for cinematic look for most of my videos. I make sure to shoot an S-Log3 because it gives me the most dynamic range to ensure that I can use the surrounding areas with the light and everything to capture things of how I like to in the image. I enable the real-time tracking so I can focus on my subject and never miss that focus even though when they're moving. And I make sure to use a variable ND filter to maintain that 180-degree rule because I want to make sure everything is exposed right while being able to shoot at a more open aperture like an f2 or 2.8 if I want to make sure I blur out the background. And then I simply just hit record and then piece it all together for you. And that's how I film a little bit of a cinematic sequence, so enjoy. And now that you've seen some real life scenarios using the Sony A7IV, I want to share some tips that I've learned from using this camera to help you create your best content. I recommend to get some ND filters. These are essential for controlling exposure and bright conditions to keep the proper exposure when shooting video. And it'll help you keep your aperture at its fastest so that you're able to go ahead and get those nice backgrounds blurred out when you're shooting video. This also helps me create some slow shutter photos during sunny conditions. It's really great to be able to have a different perspective into your photos, so having that ND filter always being kept in your bag will help ensure that you can get creative but also have the proper exposure. And something that I would recommend if you want to get the most dynamic range off of your Sony A7IV is shooting an S-Log3. This gives you the most flexibility with the most dynamic range so that you're able to color grade in post to be able to get the image to your liking. I love to use this to be able to get my creative colors out and showcase the world my creative style with not just the story but as well with my colors. Something that you're going to see that is going to be very beneficial is using this little switch from photo to video to S and Q. You're going to want to use this button to access photos, video modes, and everything as fast as possible with this customization. You're going to be able to take some pro photos faster and as well to ensure to capture some behind the scenes videos and B-roll whenever needed. Something that I recommend if you're going to be shooting photos is using the A7IV continuous shooting mode because it's perfect for capturing fast action shots. You're able to use it whenever you're out taking portraits to ensure you have some options, but as well if you're wanting to do more sports or as well some street photography style to ensure you don't miss the shot. And lastly, I recommend using a custom white balance when shooting in video. I set my white balance manually for accurate colors and tricky lighting situations when shooting video. This ensures that I can get the most correct image in camera, so that way in post it doesn't take me as long of time to be able to get the colors that I am seeking. But these have been the tips that have helped me get the most out of my Sony A7IV, and I hope that they work for you as well. And now you're ready to go ahead and take full advantage of your Sony A7IV, whether you're shooting portraits, cinematic videos, or anything in between. This hybrid camera has everything that you need to capture all your creative needs. And if you're needing more details on how to get the most out of your Sony A7IV, be sure to read the article in the description down below. And if you found this tutorial helpful, give it a like, share it with your friends, and let me know in the comments what you're most excited about shooting with your Sony A7IV. Thanks for watching and happy shooting.